Hey everyone, Chris here, Jam Play. Good to be back. We are in week 8 of Modes Made Easy, and we are working through a track that is very stereotypical in terms of how it handles modal transitions. You know, we've talked about in previous weeks that not a lot of tracks, not a lot of songs, unless it's done on purpose, stay in one mode. They go from mode to mode. Because a lot of times things are written not in a, hey, let's write in a mode. They're written from the heart. They're written just based off of inspiration, and sometimes modal accidents happen. And so you'll find that in a lot of different tracks, and this track is no exception. It's just, you're just kind of going along. You're feeling the groove. And the chord choices that are made, though, from a lead guitar perspective, they require different sorts of interpretations from modal, when it comes to modes. And last week we dealt with the initial transition a couple of weeks ago before the break, we dealt with this transition where we had this cool riff in the beginning. And then it settled into this. And we determined that since there was no third in that opening riff, but there was a flatted 7, that we could be using Mixolydian or Dorian, meaning we could use the major third or the minor third over that little passage. And it would work. Then when we came to this section here, let's get in the right place here. Right here, this was straight Mixolydian. Took it out of there. There we go. So now we have this transition where we're going from sort of the verse, or maybe that's the chorus, I don't know, to this next section where the chords switch up a little bit. And we know it's going to take something different modally, but we don't know what yet. So let's listen through and start mapping the chords and using all the things that we've used over the course of this course. We're going to be able to determine, okay, once we know the chord progression, we're going to go to our key transposition table, and then we're going to look at what mode would represent this chord progression, and then we're going to look at how to transition from straight Mixolydian to whatever this is next. So let's listen. So again, we know this is Mixolydian. E. No. What do we got? Okay, interesting. Let's back it up. So it sounds like we go to a G of some kind. Now, is that still an E major? It feels like it wants to be major still, right? As we were, that was major. If I play E minor there, no, it wants to be major. So we're going E major to G. Specifically like a G add 9 or G2. D. And that riff again. Okay, so we'll worry about that later. So we've got that transition. We've got this chord progression that's going E major to D major to A, and then this other section we have E, okay, now this is functioning as a major chord, even though there's no third in there. But we're in, the tonal center is still E major, but we've got a G note, and a G is the flat third of E major. What? Okay, let's look at our key transposition table and see what we can make sense of it modally. Okay, so E tonal center of major, that leaves us with Mixolydian, which we were in, Lydian, let's see here, Lydian, we would still have a G sharp if we were in Lydian, if you see that. Okay, or major, E major, we would have a G sharp. So there's no major tonal center with an E, doing that. That doesn't fit into the general major scale feel, although it sounds fine. So what are we doing? Okay, well we've got that, but then when we go here, here's what I'm going to suggest. Here's what I think will work. We have the flat 7. We know the flat 7 is going to work. That's a Mixolydian sound, right? That exists in the progression, right? We've just got this. So for that chord, I'm going to recommend that we play Dorian, E Dorian, for this chord. And maybe the D also, because that works in the Dorian realm, right? If we're playing, so if we go to E Dorian, for example, E Dorian would be D major. We've got a D major in E Dorian. So we've got E Dorian, and we've also got a G in E Dorian. So what we'll do is we'll play Mixolydian. We'll play Mixolydian over the E, and it'll be in tune. Bending's really bending and weather. It's Colorado, and it's dry, and sometimes it's like -2, and sometimes it's 70 degrees, and those days can be right next to each other. So what we're going to do is we're going to play Dorian over this chord, and Mixolydian here. All that means is we're discerning between the major and the minor 3, because if you remember Dorian, if we just take one octave of an E scale, Mixolydian would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, flats, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, flat 7, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, flat 7, 1. Dorian, all we're doing is we're lowering the third. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, flat 7, 1. So we've got this happening. That's the only note we need to make sure and sort of discern between. So when we're playing over the E major, we can think of it as Mixolydian, or we can think of it as major third, with all of their notes the same. And then when we move to here and here, we're playing Dorian. Or we can think of it as now we're playing the minor third. So let's see here how that happens. And before I yap for the whole hour, are there any comments or questions?
We do have one question here.
Okay. And I'm just now realizing, I know that this is a pain, but I forgot to bring my water in. I'm starting to lose my voice a bit. Do you mind going and getting a water real quick while I answer the question?
Yeah, let me ask this question, and I'll run get you one.
Sorry.
All right, here we go. This is from Keith over on Facebook. I've been learning modes lately. I've been playing bass, but it all works the same, right?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, bass is a great place to start when you're learning modes, because you're really focusing on the tonal center aspect of you're really focusing on the tonal center aspect from a support position, whereas with solo guitar or lead guitar, you're playing over the top of something, but the bass is a real foundational thing. And so if you understand modes from a bass perspective, you're going to be very, very valuable as a collaborator with bass, for sure. Thank you. Any other questions before we try this out? All right. So, just to review, we're going to do Mixolydian over the E major. Then Dorian. Let's try it. I'm excited for this. So there's that major third to minor third. I'll stick to a scale pattern right off so you can hear the difference, and then I'll go around being a little bit less pattern oriented. Again, and I want to explain something here. I'll play it like I said, and then I'm going to play the wrong thing. In other words, I'll play the minor third. I'll play Dorian the whole way, and you'll see how horrible it'll sound. Or I'll play Mixolydian the whole way, and you'll see how horrible it'll sound. So here we go. Dorian. Mixolydian. Dorian. Mixolydian. Dorian. Dorian. Okay, a lot of Dorian, but the Mixolydian is in there. Now, I'm going to play the minor third the whole time, and we'll see how it sounds. So that'd be Dorian the whole time. That sounds weird to me. Okay, it didn't sound that bad, but it didn't sound strategic either. Part of that was just my phrasing, but now I'll play Mixolydian the whole time. Yeah. It's got to be there. Okay, now I'll do a little bit of mix of both, and I'll phrase around a little bit in a way that doesn't sound like I'm just playing scales. That's the next transition. Let's try it a couple more times. That works. Mixolydian and Dorian. It does sort of work to play Dorian the whole time. But because of the way you go into it, like if we take it from the very beginning and we take the song in context, switching purely to Dorian there may not be as musical. So let's take it from the beginning, because we know that little stint right after that intro is definitely Mixolydian. Dorian doesn't work so well there, though. So let's listen, or play along. Let's see. Let's try this. So having that Dorian tint or Dorian accent over that second part while still borrowing from Mixolydian over that E major works really, really well. It works, though, to play Dorian over that E because it's a power chord. So even though it's implied that it's E major, because of the context, having that minor third in there doesn't hurt so bad. But definitely having the major third in there does hurt quite a bit. Looks like we have some questions. No, oh, he made a face at me, so I thought maybe there was some questions.
Sorry, I was looking at something.
Oh, okay. No questions, no comments.
A little quiet tonight.
Okay. Well, that right there is the discussion on modes in the real world, right? You have to be able to go from what you know of the modal characteristics, which we're going to review here in a second, so there's the modal characteristics, and then there's what the song is doing contextually, right? Like we moved to different, not different tonal centers. We're on E the whole time, but we moved to different tonalities throughout the course of this song so far, and there's going to be more in the following weeks. Is there anything else we could do here within the context of these chord progressions from a modal perspective that would work? We've discussed mainly Dorian and going back and forth from Dorian to Mixolydian in that pocket, in that transition. Is there anything else we could do? We have Phrygian and Lydian left. We also have aspects of Locrian, like the flat 5, that we could try. Is there anything like that that would make sense? Let's see from a harmonic perspective if that would make sense. Going back to our key transposition table, E Phrygian be the parent key of C. Well, we have a G major there as well. Why wouldn't we try E Phrygian over the G? Let's see what happens. We're gaining inspiration from harmonic qualities of modes. So clearly Mixolydian here. No, it doesn't work. Here's why. It's this chord. We've explicitly got a normal second in there, so Phrygian will not work. That's how we rule that out. We have to listen to the chord qualities. So if I was to play Phrygian over that, I would be introducing, well, oh, actually, never mind. That will work because we're not playing G Phrygian, we're playing E Phrygian. So let's go back there. Try this again. Definitely doesn't work there. Doesn't. Go back to the key transposition table real quick. If we look here, we don't have a D major in E Phrygian. So if we do that, that second note, that Phrygian tone, it doesn't sound half bad, but it probably isn't one you want to use a lot. What about Locrian, which would introduce the flat 5? Let's try experimenting with the flat 5 over this. A little bit of flat 5 flavor in there is great. Now, is this really playing modally? Are we really going to Locrian? No. We're not really going to Locrian. We're not really going to Phrygian. What we're doing is we're borrowing tones that make those modes what they are, and we're putting them in as chromatic tones, which is what makes blues so great, is you use a lot of chromaticism tastefully. So don't let the introduction of sort of incidental tones like this confuse you with being in a mode. They're very, very different. We are playing in primarily Dorian over this section, and we are switching back and forth sort of intentionally between that E major and the Dorian sound. But when we add a flat 5 or we add a flat second in there, we're really just playing with chromaticism, but our ears borrow that from, whether we know it or not, modally from those different modes. So even though we're not playing in Phrygian, we put a flat 2 in there, and we're borrowing that Phrygian sound. Even though we put a flat 5 in, we're not switching to Locrian for a minute. We're simply using a chromatic flat 5 sound in context. So I hope that makes sense. I'm going to go ahead and jam over this here, and then we're going to go back and we're going to review the major and minor modes in the key tones that make them sound the way they do, because we haven't done that for a couple weeks, and it's been a couple weeks since we've met. Before I do either of those things, are there any comments or questions?
No comments or questions.
Okay.
So if you guys have any, just type them in the chat there, and Chris will answer all your questions.
Okay. From the top, we're going to try to get a little more melodic here. went through and played through that next transition, which we're not covering until next week. What's fun about this is once you get the mode and once you start to sort of like get the scales out, then developing melodies around the mode is really fun. You don't have to go a lot of places to do that either. You know, just looking at this. It's totally something you'd hear in like an instrumental guitar thing. Let's try it again, see if we can refine it a little bit. Yeah, that's fun. All right. Let's go and review what needs to happen to make a mode from a tonality standpoint. So if we go back in week 6, we talked about 2 ways to think. You can look at a mode, for example, A Dorian, from the perspective that it is simply G major starting on the 2nd note. And that gives it a certain tonality. But what is that tonality when compared with a more common sound? So if we compare A Dorian to A minor would be a Aeolian, but a straight minor sound is a more common sound. The difference between A minor and A Dorian is that A minor has the 3rd, the 6th, and the 7th flatted. A Dorian only has the 3rd and the 7th flatted. So it has a natural 6th sound. That puts them in different keys. So A Dorian would be in the parent key of G major, has 1 sharp. A Aeolian would be in the key of C major. That's weird, but let's look at the key transposition table and you'll see why. Key transposition table now. Okay, cool. So if we look at A Aeolian, you see the A minor on the 6th degree. That should give you an idea of the fact that A minor, Aeolian, is in the key of C. If we look at the key of G, Dorian, A minor, exists on the 2. So this is an easy way to find out what your parent key is. You find the minor 1 of whatever mode you're playing, and then you can see what the total modal harmony is, but you can also see what parent key it is, because over on the far left, you see the 1. Those are all the parent keys. But that's the difference in tonality. To go from Aeolian or straight minor to Dorian, you would be raising the sixth. That gives you the sound of Dorian. If you go to Phrygian, this is the other minor mode, you would be, let's compare Phrygian to Aeolian. Aeolian, we have the third, the sixth, and the seventh flatted. Phrygian, we add in a flat 2. So we have 2, 3, 6, 7, all flatted. If we were to be in A Phrygian, let's look and see where A exists. A minor exists on the third degree in the key of F, according to the key transposition table. So A Phrygian would be F, the parent key of F major. Does that make sense? A Dorian would be in the key of G, because we know that Dorian is the second mode, and we know that Dorian is a minor mode, and so we have to look for A minor. So we'd look around the 2, and okay, then we go back to the 1, and we see G. If we go if we want to do an A Phrygian, we just have to find where A minor exists on the third. That would be F. Let's do another one. Let's do D Dorian. That's easy. 2. It's in the parent key of C. Let's do D Phrygian. Where does D exist? D Phrygian would be B flat major, would be the parent key. G Dorian. G Dorian's fairly common. Where is G the 2? Okay, that'd be F major. Where is G the 3? Where would G be Phrygian? G minor would be E flat major would be the parent key. G Aeolian would be the key of B flat major. That'd be the parent key. Let's go to the major modes. We'll do the same thing. So a major is no sharps or flats. You know, it's major third, major, all the intervals are major or perfect. Lydian is a major scale with a raised 4. Lydian is the 4th mode of the G major scale. So if we want to play in any Lydian key, we simply need to find where the 4 is, and then we can find the parent key, and we'll have all the access to all the scales. But we need to keep that raised 4 tonality in our mind. That's what makes it different. So, and then Mixolydian is a major scale with a flatted 7. So all you're doing is you're taking the 7th degree and lowering it a half step. So what we just did with Dorian and Phrygian, we'll do with Lydian and Mixolydian. So let's say we want to play in F Mixolydian. So we need to find where F is the 5th degree, because Mixolydian is the 5th mode of a major scale. That'd be B flat major, as you can see down there. So if we start the B flat major scale on F, we would be playing Mixolydian, but we would be playing with the tonality of an F major scale with a flatted 7. That's the sound. It's the sound that it's important. It helps you find what notes are available by locating the parent key, but you don't want to play as if the parent key is it. You want to play over the tonal center of F. With all these modes, that's how you want to work it. Let's go to E Lydian. So we need to find where E is the 4th degree of the scale. Okay. E Lydian, 4th degree of the scale. There we go. We're in B major. E Mixolydian. We find where E is the 5. Okay, so we'd be in A major. How about B flat Mixolydian? That'd be the key of E flat. So I think you see where we're going here. This is the way to find what notes are accessible, but it's really important to have those key tones in your mind. Again, Dorian is a minor scale with a natural 6th. Phrygian is a minor scale with a flat 2. Lydian is a major scale with a raised 4. Mixolydian is a major scale with a flat 7. And we've spent the past 8 weeks really diving into these tonalities. So if you haven't spent time with the other lessons in this series, go back and start designing your ear to follow modal sounds. It's amazing for your improvisation. It's amazing for your composition. So I encourage you in both of those things. Are there any other comments or questions?
Yeah, we have a few questions now.
Great.
Let me get a couple here that are relating to what you were just talking about first. Let's see here. BVLZ asks, in other words, if we stay in the parent key but switch the tonal center, is that a modal change or not?
Ooh, that is a modal change. Yeah. If you switch the tonal center, the definition of a modal change is a shift in tonal center. You may or may not be in the same parent key. In this case, we're not in the same parent key in this particular track because we are maintaining the tonal center, but we're switching modes. But it could totally be the other way. Totally depends on the chord progression, but that's an absolute possibility.
Okay. And from Keith, Phrygian is at C sharp, but play everything in the key of A.
Let's go back to the parent. So the key of A, we're saying the parent key is the key of A. If we go back to the key transposition table, we want to play in C sharp Phrygian. Yeah, we would play in the parent key of A, but we'd basically be doing this. So here is C sharp. That would be your Phrygian sound, C sharp Phrygian. You're absolutely right.
Okay, another question from BVLZ here. I have an example where the main part is clearly minor, variations of the A minor chord. Then it switches to a C, G over B, A minor. Sounds like C major progression 2 times before going back to A minor variations. Would that be considered a modal change?
Yeah, it really would be. So, and it would be, so if it's in C, and you've got an A minor chord, you've got a very clear, it's going back and forth from Aeolian mode to Ionian, so they're the two most common sounds, but that absolutely is a modal change. Your tonal center, you're in the key of C the whole time. And then you switch to the tonal center of C. And then you... Well, now it depends on how they land on that A minor. If you still feel like you're going home to that A minor, for example, if we did something like this. Then we did something like this. That to me is just all A minor. You're in A Aeolian the whole time. But if we did something like this, and then we eventually did. So you see the difference? Like, I landed in C. C started to feel like home, so I changed tonal centers. But if you're going back to that A repetitiously, then it could just be it's all in A. But absolutely, that would still be considered a modal change. If you feel like you switched from A to C, then yeah, you'd want to handle that differently from a soloing perspective. Absolutely. Good question.
Okay, this one's from Tyrone. Can we count the notes diatonically backwards to find the key?
Absolutely. That's exactly what we were doing on the key transposition table. We were just doing it with the help of a table. So if you're in C-Lydian, you just C. If you're in C-Lydian, you'd go C, B minor, A, G. Okay, we're in the parent key of G. If you know which mode is based off of which key, which scale degree, you can do that all day long. Very good.
Okay, that's it for questions for now.
Okay. Awesome, guys. Thanks for another great week. I look forward to another edition of Modes Made Easy next Wednesday.